Hey guys, I'm Dan with the Plumber Show. Today is a very special day today. It's Hug a Plumber, and it's a national holiday. Not a lot of people know about it, but that's why we're having our own plumber awareness. So I'm here with my friend Ryan, who also works for Einstein Pros. He's the manager in the Portland division. And so today we're just gonna educate everybody on a little bit of how plumbers talk, what we do, who we are, so that we can all talk and appreciate how plumbers are, especially on this wonderful day. So, if you haven't hugged a plumber yet, I suggest you go find one because these guys are going to get hugs later, but not from each other. Maybe from somebody else. Well, we don't know. All right. So anyway, here with Ryan today, and Ryan, can you just tell us a little bit, like, how long have you been a plumber? Because for me, I'm gonna say, who's older here?
You are.
What? Come on.
Plumbing since I was 18, so 25 years.
Oh,
20,
I thought you were gonna hide your
oh,
age.
wait.
Because
27.
I think that everybody needs to know how awesome plumbers are, because I don't think people know.
Nope.
You know, like, people call us and we show up to their house. They have no idea like what goes behind the scenes to actually become a plumber, as well as like what happens in the plumbing realm, and like some of the nasty jobs that we get into. Like, I look at your pants. Like, I don't think we can zoom in, but you should see this guy's pants. Like, I'm not joking. He should stand up because his pants.
They're not that bad.
No, they're pretty bad actually. They are. Like, look at my pants. My pants are nice and clean, but that's because I just drove parts today, so I didn't actually do anything too laborious.
I work.
Yeah, this guy actually works. He was
On my knees all day.
Yeah, all day. I don't want to know, but no, he was just. What were you doing today? Tell us a little bit about your day.
Just fixed the water line, hot water line.
Fantastic.
It was broke.
And clearly it was a very nasty crawl.
Right. Always is.
Always is.
There's never a good crawl, really.
Yeah, not very well. There was one crawl that I went in, and they literally had like one of those where you lay on your back and the mechanics use it to kind of scoot around.
Poured concrete under there.
Yeah, the whole underneath of this guy's house was one like huge rat slab.
Yep.
Is what they call it, and that was probably the coolest thing ever. I think I spent more time in the crawl just having fun.
Yeah.
Flying
scooting
around
across
that crawl space. But that was probably one of the cleanest crawls that I'd ever been in my life, because there was no visqueen and it was just like perfectly smooth.
Really?
Yeah.
Where was that? Powell Butte? Or
it was off of like Cooley, in that like really high end subdivision where all those like really nice houses are.
Oh yeah.
It was really nice. It was an ICF house, so it's the concrete forms, how they built it.
Yeah.
And so they build that whole slab.
Yeah.
And then they put the ICFs up about, I don't know, like 1.5 feet, 2 feet.
Yeah.
And so it was all like one unipour.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was nice.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's a great crawl to work in. So, but anyway, Ryan, tell us a little bit, like how did you come into being a plumber?
My grandpa was a plumber, and I mean, nobody says I want to be a plumber when I grow up, you know. So it wasn't like a lifelong dream of mine, but got a woman pregnant, and then needed a big job.
Oh my gosh.
Needed to figure my shit out. So there you go. That's what I did.
Wait, your daughter's here with us. So does she know?
This is my youngest, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My son. Yeah.
And I heard you still do.
Yep. Yeah, she has a good job. Really good job.
So wait, are you trying to say that being a plumber is not a great job? It's a wonderful job. Where else can you help people?
You can pick and choose when you want to do it. I could do it on weekends with my dad.
You get to crawl under houses. You get to touch really cool stuff. I mean, there's just like so many things that are just so amazing
that are
about being a plumber.
Not want to make you. I've said several times, why did I get into plumbing?
It's a tough job, you know,
especially in a crawl space or some nasty job.
Have you ever what's the worst crawl space you've ever been in? And I'll tell you a really funny story after you.
One where I had to dig my way into it because there was no crawl and no foundation on the house. So I had to dig my way back with a shovel. And then when I get back in there, see a dead carcass of some kind of dog or coyote or something. So it was just nasty.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about, if I remember, we were talking about this nasty crawl space where you found a dead coyote.
No chickens, just coyote.
Now, how did the coyote get in the crawl space, you think?
I have no idea.
That's weird.
Yeah, and it had been there for a while.
Oh, was it all like decomposed?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Just saw the head part.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I remember when I was an apprentice, this was a while ago, and we didn't have like real flashlights, like the Milwaukee stuff. So we just had like the battery operated ones. And so I always had a crawl light, and then I would take the crawl light down in the crawl, and I had like 100-foot cord, but I didn't have the 100-foot cord. So I had 250s and I plugged it in the middle, but I didn't tie it.
Yeah.
Like,
so
so what happened was, really big house. I'm crawling. This lady's like, she's like, you know, oh, the leak's over in the very far back of the house. And I was like, oh man. And it was a belly crawl, and it didn't have viscreen. So it was just like that poofy dust, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, kind of like, oh, like crawling back. And then I dragged my tray and I dragged my light. And then I get all the way back to the very back. And I'm starting to work on the plumbing. I'm laying on my back, and it's all like really, really dark because all I have is literally just that little light that's got a light bulb in it. And then I go to pull it like this, and I unplugged it about 50 feet away, and it's pitch black. And back then we didn't have cell phones. So at least not like we do now. And no light on it. And so I was like, oh man. So I'm just like in pitch black, and I'm on my belly. It's dusty, and I'm literally just like following the cord back. And I'm like, oh my God, this sucks. And I just get all the way back, and then I go to plug it in, and right in front of me is this dead cat like this. It was like mummified. It was like mummified in the crawl space. And so it scared the shit out of me, because I was like right here in my face, and then I like plug it in, and then the light's on, you know, back there, and it was like really eerie. And then all of a sudden there's like a dead cat carcass, like literally looking at with its mouth open. And so anyway, I finished the plumbing underneath, and I come back up, and I said, hey, ma'am, I don't remember her name. And I said, are you missing a cat? And she's like, oh my God, I haven't seen him in years. And I said, well, I think we found him. And she's like, oh, he must have got in the crawl space. And then she asked me to bring him out. And
really?
Yeah, she asked me to bring out the cat. And I was a good plumber, and I did my job. So I brought the cat out. So that's one of my scary plumber stories. I was telling my daughter, I said, you know, it's National Hug A Plumber's Day. And she's like, really? And she's like, that's a thing?
Like, that's a day?
And I said, yeah. And I was like, and I've been saving up these hugs, and I can't wait to give them out. And then she's like, oh my gosh. She's like, please don't talk like that. She's like, if you talk like that, she's like, you're never going to get anybody to give you a hug ever. And I was like, oh, come on. Like, look at this guy. This guy deserves a hug. I've been a plumber forever. I got into plumbing because my friend was a plumber, and I needed a job.
That's about why everybody gets into
plumbing. Yeah, I talk about this in another blog or podcast, but I actually applied to be an electrician because because it's a lot cleaner. And no offense to electricians, at all, right? But it always seems like they're always really clean.
Not doing a whole lot of work.
Yeah, it's more like, and it's like everywhere you go, there's like a mess of stuff, like in their path. They never clean up after them. I've never seen any other trade that just drops everything literally in the same spot that they're working, and they just walk away. It's like they do this, and then they just go, "I'm done," and they go on to the next one. And they don't touch anything. So I was like, I think I like that, but the wait was too long for me to get in because I signed up at the Labor and Industries, and it was like they didn't know when it was going to open up again. Which was kind of weird back in the day. It was like
they take like 200 at a time,
something like that. And then it was like I asked how I could be a plumber because I was like, oh, if I can't be an electrician, I'd be a plumber. And they said, oh, you just got to go get a job and then you can apply. And I was like, oh, that was pretty cool. So, that's how I did it. I was actually in Washougal and I applied at a company and got in as a plumber, and right away it was just started doing plumbing, which was pretty cool.
And did you serve your whole apprenticeship there?
I served my whole apprenticeship. I went through the whole time I worked at that one company mostly. I bounced back and forth a couple times just because I got laid off. But I ended up going to the Oregon school because I wanted to be a business owner. So I wanted to like get the code information of it and stuff. And I think you went through the Oregon program too, right?
Yeah, back in 05.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I remember you were talking about that.
It's a lot of work. Too much work.
It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. I mean, in my opinion, and I think school back then was way better than it is now. And not to rag on the schooling, but I think back in the day it was like the guys that were doing the schooling were more old school, and they were really educated, meaning like they had like a lot of different experience and worked in a lot of like high-end and commercial projects. So they did a lot of sizing and they were really good at like the code aspect of it.
There was a lot more to plumbing back then, though.
It seemed like it, right?
It was a lot
more
difficult.
It was a lot more difficult. Yeah. Like I worked with this 72-year-old guy in my apprenticeship. And the first thing I thought was when I went to work and then I was at a commercial, going out to a commercial job, and it was like a post office that they were doing from the ground up. And then I got there because I drove the work truck, and then I got there and it was like, I met this guy for the first time. His name was Carl Bishop. And he said, "Hey, are you my apprentice?" And I was like, Jesus, how old is this guy? And I was like, started talking to him, and he was like a retired plumber, and he just was coming back just because he wanted to make some money. And he was really good at commercial work. But he was 72, and every time that he walked, he farted. And I was always like, and it smelled like dust. And I was like, how does this fart smell like dust? I don't know if it was what he ate. But it seemed like all the time that that's what happened. But when I was working with him,
a lot more difficult back then.
He showed me how to do a lot of lead and oakum. So he had an old lead and oakum set, and so he showed me how to pour the lead and oakum joints, and he had a complete set. I worked with him for a bit, and I ended up buying his tools because he had some really cool specialty stuff. Yeah, he had all that really amazing stuff. Bought his threader and all that stuff. But one thing that I remember working with him, which was really, really like crazy, is his fingers were like maybe like 3 times the size of my fingers.
Any missing digits?
No, none. And when we would solder, we'd be soldering these like 2-inch copper pipes, 90s and fittings and T's and stuff. He would wipe it with his bare finger. And so for the audience or anybody listening in, if you've never known how to solder, and maybe we should do an episode of soldering something, because because it's pretty cool. So he would solder, and he'd get this with this torch, and he'd heat up this pipe to probably like 1500 degrees, 1800 degrees. That's what kind of the melting point of solder. And then it would roll through the pipe like that, and then it would leave a little drip on the bottom, and he would just take his bare finger, it was 1800 degrees, and he'd just go boop, and he'd just wipe it off. And the first time I saw that, I was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And he's like, "I said, did you forget that you like didn't have like a glove or or like a rag or something?" And he was like, "Oh, you young guys, you don't know anything about anything." He's like, "It doesn't hurt."
Finger's just a piece of leather, right?
And yeah, and then I looked at his finger like that, and it was like had no fingerprint, like it had been burned off like a long time ago.
Calcified.
Yeah, it was like a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, but that was I had a pretty interesting experience, and I was telling this to my son because he's a plumber too, and I used to have to ride in the back on a bucket.
Yeah.
And I was like,
carry their tools
and then
around and
carry,
shit.
yeah, exactly, because the vans back then were like pretty generic, just like Craigslist killer vans. Nobody had marked trucks. And then we'd sit in a van and they had the cage, the roll-up cage, and there's nowhere to sit in the middle. Because it's just like two seats. That's it. And so if you're the third guy and the boss, they don't care. He's like, hop in the back, you're riding with the fittings. And then the fittings are bouncing around, and you know,
laying on top of them.
Pretty much. And then they stop, everything comes up in your face. And it was like back then, being an apprentice was totally different. Totally different. I mean, it was like the plumbers of that era, bygone era. I don't know what happened to them all, but they were tough as nails. And
nowadays, not so much.
Not so much, no. But we still love every plumber, and we're still grateful for all of the plumbers because it is National Hug A Plumbers Day, so it's all about plumber awareness. We appreciate all of the plumbers who are in the trades and all the other trades, but today is a special day because it's all about us. Hug a Plumber. So and actually what's really crazy about it is I don't know who coined the phrase. I was actually Googling it and trying to find it. And the AI version of Google said that there's nobody that's actually like specific that actually coined that phrase. So I don't really know how it came into existence, but it's a pretty cool thing. I think it should be a national holiday, and we should get time off as plumbers. Or something, you know, nice. Or at least we could get some hugs. So we had these shirts made, Hug A Plumber. And I think we're going to sell these shirts if we get some good responses back. We're going to make some hats too, because it's all about like trying to bring awareness to what plumbers do, what we do, what's the day to day, and how important and essential it is as a plumber, and because everybody has to have plumbing. For hot water, you know, taking a bath, washing your dishes, and, you know, of course, going to the restroom. So a lot of people don't think about that, and how the sanitary sewer, they call it sanitary for the main reason is because everything is sealed. And so all of the joints are glued. And so when we finish the plumbing in a house, not only do we turn the water on to the water piping, but we actually fill up the waste piping all the way up through the roof, and we test it to make sure that there's no leaks from the waste piping where the sewer goes, you mean when you flush the toilet. And so that's, it's all a sanitary system. And so that's why we have vents and all sorts of crazy stuff, but it's to protect everybody so that we don't get disease and cross-contamination and get sick, because we have cross-contamination with sewer water and drinking water. So it's a really big deal as plumbers. Like, we do a lot to protect the health of the nation.
Yes. What's the dumbest thing you've ever seen a guy do?
Oh boy, that's a good one. Homeowner or probably homeowner. Well, I saw this one house where I went to it, and they had plumbed it themselves, and so on the flange they bushed it down to 2-inch. And then I got there, and the guy's like, "Oh man, my toilet's been clogging up and it's not flushing." And I was like, "Well, that's weird." I was like, "Well, let me take a look and stuff." And so I tried to auger it with a toilet auger. So I pushed it in there, and I got it, like, I thought it, you know, I was like, "Oh, that's weird. It's not really doing anywhere, standing water." And then I go into his basement, and then I'm like, "That's weird."
You read on the toilet box, it says 2-inch trap.
That's exactly right. And so, yeah. So it's supposed to be a 3-inch pipe, which is about this big, right? And so he ran it with a pipe like this. Well, it could
said 2 inch.
Yeah, well, so the turds weren't going very far. Let's just put it that way. And so it was like literally a log jam for like 40 feet. And so I was like, I was asking the guy because I was like, is there another line somewhere here? And he's like, no, that's the line. And I kept saying, you hooked it up into a 2-inch? And he's like, yeah, why? And I was like, well, it's minimum 3-inch. Like I said, that's the problem. And so he's, well, can you fix it? And I was like, yeah, okay, well, let me just cut it right here. And then let me just kind of like see what's going on. So we cut it, and then it was like this sausage that came out, and it was like right in this guy's basement. And it was like, it must have been like 30 feet long, like one long solid turd. It was just like, yeah, it just kept coming out. And it just like I was like, oh God, the smell. And I was like, get a bucket quick. Oh, it was so bad. Nobody thought that was going to happen. No, I mean, that was really disgusting. So that's probably the worst thing that I've ever seen.
That's horrible.
That's pretty bad. We were snaking this old lady's drain one time. We had a basement, and then we told her, we said, hey, we're going to be in the basement. I said, your main line's backed up. So I said, please don't use the toilet or use any water in the house. And so me and this other guy, where he was snaking it really good. And then all of a sudden I heard she flushed the toilet, and then I could hear it coming down the pipes. And I was like, hey dude, watch out. You're going to get splashed. And sure enough, he's got the snake in there. He wasn't listening. And then a big old turd like hits that snake, and then it pops out the clean out, and there was like toilet paper, and it was just a gross, just absolutely disgusting mess. So all I'm saying is, you got to be grateful for these guys, this plumbers, who we go and we take care of the things that nobody else wants to touch. And that's really what it's about. That's why we deserve a hug, I think.
That's right.
It's true. Right. Yeah. So that's part of life, being a plumber. But, as far as like touching gross stuff, now it's a little bit better because we wear more gloves and have a lot more protection, and there's a lot more ways to clean things, meaning like snaking and stuff. That's way better. And, we have a lot better equipment clearly now, of course. Yeah. So. And so you said you were an apprentice for 4 years, and then so what was like your experience going through the apprenticeship, and how did you like that?
I came up through the union apprenticeship, so it was, they're pretty strict, no missing class, no nothing.
Oh, so you had 5 years.
Yeah, so you missed class. But it's the training's worth it,
Yeah.
I think it's far surpasses
Yeah. Come on. Is he want to fist fight? We're gonna arm wrestle later. Come on. I mean, what?
I guess it depends what you.
I was non-union. He's union.
What you want to get out of the classes, I guess. But as far as the union, how they teach it and everything,
right?
It seems like how they're teaching non-union now.
Right. It's not
lazy.
It's it is, and I'm going to have to actually agree with Ryan, because I was going to go the union route just because of like the schooling and the opportunities that you have too, because there's a really good schooling on the union side.
Yeah, and they put you to work right away, all that stuff. So.
Yeah, there was like, you probably learned, I don't know, did you have access to like med gas? Yeah. And did you end up doing the med gas certification?
Yeah, and then we have a crane class. They teach you to operate a crane.
What? And welding too. I remember welding was part of the curriculum as well.
And they have a awesome shop,
Yeah, where you could like dry fit all the fittings together.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I know a lot of guys that dry fit their fittings together.
Yeah,
and you're supposed to glue them.
Supposed to put glue on there.
Yeah, please put glue on it, guys. It's way better. So it's a little joke, because if you don't glue your fittings and then you fill it up with water, of course they blow apart.
Yeah. Maybe not right away. But...
Yeah, not right away, but after some time it does. Yeah. So But and then after you went into your program, so you've done mostly commercial work or service work or new construction.
Mostly commercial. The past 6 years, I've been doing like service work and stuff
Yeah.
like that, residential.
Yep.
But
Yeah, you've been managing Portland for a while now. You moved to
yeah,
Portland, and
yeah,
what do you think of Portland?
What do I think of the town of Portland?
No, it's
Well,
beautiful. I love Portland.
it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I did a lot of work in Portland in my like just when I became a journeyman. And I worked at a corrections facility. We did a repipe on it.
Yeah.
And that was kind of crazy. So I was downtown. Parking is a nightmare. Even back then it was a nightmare.
Yeah, now it's worse.
Now it's really, really bad. But anyway, I was at a corrections facility for women. And so it was my first time that I've ever used the freeze machine. And so we were working like on the fourth floor. We couldn't shut the place off because it had prisoners or, people in there that were in the corrections facility, but it was all a woman's thing. And so I would have to get escorted to different places. And there was all these like incarcerated women in there. And
It
was a women's, it was a women's prison. And luckily I didn't have this shirt on. Or else I would have got a lot of hugs, I'm sure. But they had to kind of walk me through like an area, and there was like a lot of like cat calls, like woo, like I was probably a lot younger then. So anyway, I was working on that facility, and that was the first time that I had to use the freeze machine that you have. And so it was like pretty cool. We got it up because we had to freeze the lines because we couldn't shut the water off. And so what it is, and nobody knows what a freeze machine does. Clearly, it freezes. But how how it works is it's a big, huge canister, and what is it? CO2.
Yeah.
Yep. And then it's got these like lines that come off of it, and they're like looks like kind of it's like a wrap with Velcro. And then you Velcro it on either side of the pipe.
These are clamps.
Oh, you got the clamp one? And then you turn the CO2 on, and then it blows like just frigid. Liquid carbon dioxide freezes that section, and then you can cut it out in the middle because there's no water because the water's froze on either side. Well, it doesn't break the pipes because it's a specific spot that it only does, so it doesn't expand or it won't let it swell up and break it. So you can literally freeze it on either side, cut that section out, and then you can put in a shutoff. And so that's what we were doing on every floor. There was 4 floors, and then we would go through, put shutoffs on, and then that way we could shut the hot and cold side off on that specific remodel wing. And then we remodeled like a bunch of tubs and put in a bunch of plumbing. It was pretty cool. It was like definitely my first experience using the freeze machine. And after that, I was like, man, I should use this on everything because it's quite fascinating. It really does. Like you've used a lot too.
Yeah, I've used it a lot.
Yeah. What's like the biggest line that you've ever froze with it?
I think 1.25 inches.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. Galvanized or
galvanized.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like the galvanized actually freezes a lot faster.
You can go up to 2-inch, but I mean, I don't know how long I'd be freezing it for.
Yeah. Right. It'd probably take a long time to freeze that. Yeah, that's for sure. What's like some of the, do you have any crazy stories that you could share? Plumbing stories that maybe people are not familiar with that they would find interesting, or since we're talking about plumbing?
So I went to a service call, and it was a widowed lady, and she answered the door in just a trench coat and gloves. I'm just kidding. I've been thinking about that for a long time.
Oh, that's funny.
That didn't happen, but I wish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've had some interesting experiences, in doing in people's house. I've done service for a long time. I started in new construction, and I like that. And then, I actually started in service for a little bit, and then the first time that we went to a sewer call, and the guy was like,
getting shit all over himself.
Yeah, and I said, "Oh man, I'm either not going to be a plumber or I'm going to do new construction."
And I'm not going to do that.
But that was a long time ago. But
Yeah.
I got into new construction for a long time, and then got into commercial work, and then started doing service when I started my own company, because it seemed like it was easier to do because I didn't have to get big jobs. It was just kind of a daily thing where you do 3 or 4
Didn't have to
service.
put out tens of thousands for one job.
Yeah, exactly. It was just more, helping the community, and had got a reputation just because it was like a smaller town to, do people's plumbing and stuff, and so it turned out to be pretty good.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, it turned out well. So over the years, I've met a lot of plumbers, and it seems like plumbers always have the same kind of humor. Like,
Right.
yeah, it's true. Like I always think like, like plumbers are always this kind of the same kind of personality type. And like different personality types go to different kinds of trades. And that's kind of like, HVAC is a very like, they're a very specific kind of personality, very more analytical.
Yeah.
Kind of like they don't laugh as much. It seems like, no offense, HVAC guys, but you're very like, very kind of business like this is it. That's what
Yeah.
And electricians kind of like that
a little bit.
But they're more like, they always like tuck their shirts in.
A little bit.
Yeah, they tuck their shirts in. It seems like every electrician I know has got his shirt tucked in with his belt, and he's very like, very clean. I don't know. And plumbers, we just kind of let it all out.
Yeah.
Like we're the kind of the rowdy ones of the trades.
Yep.
Because we got to get into like
Ride the gray line.
Yeah, we ride the gray line. We got to get into the nasty situations, and get into people's houses underneath and crawl around and touch nasty stuff,
Yeah.
So
Where some guys would.
no, I think if that was an electrician, you said, "Hey, I got to go into that crawl space," and they would be like,
Fuck that.
"No way."
Floor up.
They're like, "No way. Let's burn the house down."
Yeah.
We're not touching that. But that's I think that plumbers have a personality type, because every plumber that I've ever worked with, they're always like really nice guys.
Yeah.
Good sense of humor, really down to earth, and just very approachable as an individual. Because if you look at it like this, it's a very humbling job. Like it's not a very egotistical kind of job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Not too glamorous.
It's not glamorous. I don't know too many glamorous plumbers. Yeah. Like, it's like, I think most of us are very pretty chill kind of individuals. That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're a really chill guy. Everybody that I know is like kind of just laid back, and I think you got to be for getting underneath people's houses, doing the things that we do. At the end of the day, it's like, I think that plumbers really do a lot more than what people think. And that's actually a credit to the trades and who we are as individuals that sign up to be plumbers. And it's not like plumbers make that much more than any of the other trades. I mean, they're kind of like equal with like electricians, I think. And but it's like the stuff that we get into is a lot more dirty than more of what they would ever touch.
Right.
So so just talking about like plumbing, how the situations that we have to get into to help people, because they're calling us because they have an issue, like their toilet's backed up or they have no hot water. And a lot of those times, it turns into, like a messy situation or an emergency type situation if like their toilets are flooding. You were on a call the other day. I think you were telling me how gross it was, and you showed up and there was like 10 pounds of sewage, like coming out of a toilet or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was just like percolating up. Nightmares.
Yeah. I'd rather not talk about it. I can still smell it. Yeah. Horrendous.
Yep.
I called Grow the Looter.
Yeah.
These guys are great.
Yeah. I've had a couple jobs where I just refused to do it. Like I walked in and I said, no, I'm not
for me.
No, I mean, I'm there to help the customer, and I'm a really nice guy, but there's some cases where I'm like, all right, I'm calling a disaster restoration company for you.
Yeah.
And I'll literally do that right with the customer. I'll say, if you don't mind, I'm going to call for help. And then I'll call a disaster restoration company, put them on speaker, and I'll say, hey, I'm at this customer's house. The crawl space is flooded with sewage, and there's no way I'm fixing it. So who can come out here and assess the situation and get this cleaned up for us? And that's what we do now. But back in the day, we get the call on a Saturday and they'd say, hey, we got a backed up drain. I need you to go out there and do an emergency call. There's nobody to call other than a plumber, this guy or that guy. And so you go out there and then you just like get some nasty clothes that you're going to throw away after. And then you hop in the crawl and you just got to get it done. Like I had one where the sewer line, I don't know how it broke, but it broke. And then it had been like just flooding the crawl space for like, I don't know, 6 months. And it was ripe. And it was just about this time of year. It was springtime, and it was just starting to smell. And the customer was calling the office and they were like, hey, I think we got a dead rodent or an animal in the crawl space. And then so it was a Saturday and they called me. And I was like, hello? And they were like, oh, I'm so glad that you could answer the phone. And I was like, it was my buddy, Tony, and he's an apprentice too. And he's like, dude, you got to come in and help me. And I was like, he's like, it's overtime. And I was like, well, I do kind of need the money. And I was like, okay, what are we getting into? And he's like, oh, you're going to go in a crawl space and check it out. And I was like, well, what is it? And he's like, oh, they're saying it's a dead animal. And I was like, ew. And they're like, well, you don't have to touch it. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll come in. And so I went in and then we get to the job and then he opens a crawl lid and it's just like, I mean, it was like that much sewage. And then we call the boss and then he's like, well, what are you going to do? Get in there and hook it up. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And I look at him and then he's like, I got seniority. He's like, you're going down. And I was like, what? And so I put on like this jumper suit, and I remember I put on like a rain suit and I took duct tape and I duct taped my legs to my boots. And then I duct taped my arms so nothing would go up my arms. And then I put like a hood over and I just like tightened it really tight. And I put a mask on and goggles. And then I was like, and it was all slushy and gross. And the sewer line had broke off. And then it was like, but they didn't call disaster restoration company. So I had to hook it up. Yeah, this guy. Yeah. And I had to like, I got a Fernco and I had to lift the sewer up. I had to strap it up. They didn't have zip sticks back then. So I had to use P-tape and cut a piece of pipe in between and then hammer it up because we didn't have like cordless drills back then. And then I tightened it all up, got that. And then I literally just like threw my whole clothes away. I had another pair of clothes and I just like literally just got rid of it all. And I just put it in a bag and throw it away. It was so disgusting. So some of the things that plumbers have to do are just absolutely disgusting. But I guess, it's one thing. It's plumbers are necessary. We're part of the essential service platform. We're necessary for every city. There's a plumber everywhere, all over the world. Any city there's always a plumber. So, anyway, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about for the show or?
Stay tuned in June for a repipe.
Okay. Well, actually, I think we have a really cool job that we're going to be doing together next week. And it's going to be a huge double check. And so what a double check is before the water comes into the building, it's called a check valve, and this one's got 2 checks, so they call it a double check. So water goes in, and then water can't exit. And so every year what happens is there's a tester guy that comes and he tests these check valves to make sure that they're not allowing water back through. And the reason that they're there is so that when water goes through one way, that it won't exit the building and go back into the main line. It's just in case there's like a contaminant or something in the main water line that could actually hurt the water or pollute the city water. And so we're going to be installing one of those in an existing one that's already like kind of broken. And so that's what we're going to be doing next week. So stay tuned for that. I think it's going to be a great one. And if you haven't hugged a plumber, well, today is your chance to hug a plumber. So thank you for all the plumbers in the world. We want to thank you guys because you guys are amazing. And ladies, there's women plumbers too. So we want to thank all of the plumbers out there who are doing a great job. And I think that we have one more thing for the show. We're in Portland. And so Ryan, this is the guy that's going to come to your house in Portland. So please support the local plumbers because we're really awesome. But we have one more thing, and somebody's going to give this guy here a hug. So, because it's National Hug A Plumbers Day. Oh, that's really nice. Oh, wait, it's my turn. I didn't get a hug. Oh, see, all right. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate you watching our show. Please hit the subscribe button and hit like. We really appreciate that. And thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.